The sun was setting behind the distant hills, casting a golden glow across the winding forest road. Orange and red leaves drifted lazily from tall oak trees, catching the last light of day. Inside a beat-up silver sedan cruising through the curves, Sam tapped the steering wheel to the rhythm of an old rock song playing faintly on the radio. Beside him, in the passenger seat, sat Max, his loyal golden retriever, head poking slightly out the window, fur ruffling in the cool autumn breeze. Max wasn't just a pet, he was family. He had come into Sam's life at a time when everything else was falling apart. A year ago, Sam had found him, skinny, cold, and silent, abandoned in a soggy cardboard box near a highway gas station. Sam had just lost his job and was driving with no real destination, trying to outrun his problems when he saw the trembling pup. Something about Max's eyes, scared but not broken, had stirred something deep inside him. He took the dog in without hesitation. In the months that followed, Sam and Max became inseparable. Wherever Sam went, Max followed, hiking trails, grocery store parking lots, lakeside sunsets. When Sam couldn't sleep, Max would nuzzle beside him. When Sam finally laughed again, it was because Max had done something ridiculous, like chasing his tail and falling into the laundry basket. The bond they shared wasn't loud. It was quiet and deep, a kind of understanding that didn't need words. That weekend, they'd gone on a short trip to a rented cabin in the mountains just to clear Sam's mind before his job interview the following week. As they drove back home through the forest, Sam felt hopeful for the first time in a while. "Maybe it's time for a new beginning, huh, Max?" he said, glancing over at the dog, who gave a soft bark in return. But fate has a way of testing love in the most brutal ways. As they rounded a blind corner near a sharp cliffside, blinding headlights exploded in front of them, a pickup truck, swerving violently into their lane. Sam's eyes widened. He yanked the wheel. Tires screeched. Metal screamed. And then, impact. The world flipped. Once. Twice. Then silence. Smoke hissed from the crumpled hood. The car had landed upside down at the edge of a steep ravine, one tire still slowly spinning in the air. Inside, broken glass sparkled like ice on the shattered dashboard. Max groaned. He was upside down, pinned slightly between the crushed seat and a bent door. His ribs hurt, his paws stung, but he was alive. Dazed, he wriggled free, whimpering as jagged metal tore at his fur. He limped toward Sam. Sam wasn't moving. He was slumped over the steering wheel, a thin stream of blood trailing down from his temple. His breath came in faint, shallow gasps. The dashboard had collapsed on his legs, pinning him down. Max nudged him gently. No response. He licked his face. Nothing. The forest was dark, empty. No headlights, no voices, just the crackling of the cooling engine and the rising cold of night. Max looked at the wreckage. Then at Sam. Then at the road behind them, somewhere beyond the trees. And he made a decision. With every ounce of willpower in his battered body, Max squeezed through a broken window, shards of glass cutting into his side. He stumbled onto the cold earth. He didn't know where he was, or how far he'd have to go. All he knew was that Sam needed help. Each step burned, but Max pushed forward, over rocks, through brambles, across fallen logs. Blood matted his fur. His breathing was ragged. Still he pressed on, driven not by instinct, but by love. Somewhere out there he believed someone would be, someone who could help Sam. He ran, limping, falling, rising again, not for food, not for safety, but for the man who had saved him once, and now needed saving in return. Sometimes when all hope seems lost, it arrives on 4 legs, covered in dirt, blood, and love. Officer Riley was just about to end her shift. It had been a long, uneventful evening patrolling the back roads of the Pine Hollow region. Her dashboard clock blinked 9:47 p.m. She was thinking about coffee in her warm bed when a blur of movement shot across the road, forcing her to slam the brakes. A golden dog, limping, panting, and covered in scratches, stood in the middle of the lane, barking wildly. She blinked. Was she seeing things? "Whoa, boy. Easy. What are you doing out here?" she said as she stepped out, hand on her flashlight. The dog barked again, louder, more urgent. Then he turned, limped a few paces forward, and looked back at her. Barked again. He wanted her to follow. Riley had seen enough service animals in her time to recognize what this meant. This wasn't a stray. This was a dog with purpose. Without hesitation, she got back in the cruiser and followed the golden shape as it disappeared into the trees. The headlights bounced off dirt paths and low-hanging branches. Several minutes passed. Then, she saw metal crushed, upside down. A car, barely visible in a shallow ravine. Her heart stopped. She jumped out, radio crackling in her hand. "This is Unit 12. I've got a vehicle rollover near Route 8 off trail. Requesting ambulance and rescue team immediately. One male occupant. Condition unknown." She slid down the slope, flashlight scanning the interior. Inside, she found Sam. Unconscious, bloodied, and barely breathing. She pressed 2 fingers to his neck. Faint pulse. Still alive. "Hang in there, buddy," she whispered. "Help's on the way." Behind her, Max stood panting, his body trembling from exhaustion. His job was done. He let out one last weak bark before his legs gave out, collapsing onto the cold dirt. But even as his body surrendered, his eyes never left Sam. The hospital was quiet, except for the rhythmic beeping of machines. Sam lay still, wrapped in bandages and wires, breathing through an oxygen mask. 3 days had passed since the crash. He was lucky, the doctors said. Broken ribs, concussion, mild internal bleeding, but nothing fatal. If he'd been found even an hour later, it would have been a different story. When Sam finally opened his eyes, the first thing he whispered was, "Max." The nurse smiled. "Your dog? Oh, he's a hero." And then she told him everything. How Max had escaped the wreckage. How he ran for miles, injured and bleeding. How he stopped a police cruiser and led them right back to the crash site. How he refused to leave Sam's side, even when his own injuries needed urgent care. Tears streamed down Sam's face. "He saved my life," Sam murmured. "That dog. He saved my life." Later that day, they wheeled Max into the room, bandaged, one leg in a soft cast, patches of fur shaved for stitches. The moment Max saw Sam, his tail thumped slowly, like a heartbeat trying to wake up. Sam reached out his hand. Max, despite the pain, pushed his head forward and rested it in Sam's palm. No words were spoken. None were needed. 2 souls, battered by fate but bound by love, reunited. Over the next few weeks, they healed together, physically and emotionally. Sam couldn't walk far at first, but Max would hobble beside him anyway, limping in rhythm. When Sam had nightmares, Max would place a paw on his chest, grounding him in the present. Strangers began to visit, journalists, TV crews. The dog who saved his owner. Headlines, cameras, lights. But Sam didn't care for the fame. He only cared about Max. One evening, sitting in the garden behind the hospital, Sam whispered, "You saved me twice, Max. Once when I found you in that box, and once when I thought I was done for." Max nuzzled closer. The sky turned a soft pink, and a gentle breeze rustled the trees. They sat there in silence, man and dog, survivor and savior. Because sometimes, love doesn't shout, Sometimes it runs through the woods in the dead of night, bleeding and broken, just to bring you home. True loyalty doesn't speak, it acts. In the darkest moments, love finds a way to save us.